This is one of those air fryers that doesn't try to impress you. No app, no flashy features, and honestly that's why I wanted to test it, because the real question isn't how fancy it is, it's whether it's actually enough for everyday cooking. And most of the time that's all people want, something simple, easy to use, not intimidating. Hi, I'm Meme. I review everyday kitchen appliances and I focus less on hype and more on how they actually fit into normal real life cooking. In this video I'm testing the Cosori Pro LE 5-quarter air fryer, and I'll walk you through how it performs, what it does well and where it falls short, so you can decide if it's the right fit for you. 5-quarters can sound small on paper, but with air fryers it's not really about the number, it's about the shape of the basket. This one is fairly deep and has a decent cooking surface, which matters because you really want to keep food in a single layer instead of piling it all up like the promotional photos often show. In real use, I was able to fit 4 chicken breasts, 16 wing flats and 16 nuggets without overcrowding. I've talked about this in another video on how air fryers actually cook, but for everyday meals this shape works well for about 2 to 4 people. What stood out to me most is how predictable this air fryer feels. Across different foods, I didn't have to keep adjusting time or temperature. This is usually where simpler air fryers fall apart. They either undercook, overcook or make you babysit them. That didn't happen here. The chicken preset worked well for chicken breast, wings and skewers. For the wings, I do like to bump it up in the last 2-3 minutes to 450 degrees Fahrenheit just to make them extra crispy. And for the fries and frozen preset, I changed the temperature to 450 degrees Fahrenheit because I find the higher temperature works best to draw out moisture from frozen foods faster and gets them to crisp up nicely. Before using the steak setting, I preheated first, which thankfully this air fryer has a dedicated preheat button, so you can choose to use it or not. The steak setting defaults to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what you want, and I cooked it for about 7 minutes. It came out medium rare, which honestly surprised me in a good way. I used the veggie preset to cook broccoli, but I used a tip from my Tefal review and added about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water to the basket right after cooking chicken. This loosened the juices. I removed the tray and tossed the broccoli in to get it nicely coated with the leftover chicken juices and seasoning. The broccoli came out tender and flavorful, not dry or burnt like it always does. It's a small thing, but moments like this are what make an air fryer easy to use. This is actually something I'm going to start doing going forward now. Just remember, you're not adding a great amount of liquid, and 1 to 2 tablespoons should not ruin your air fryer. There are a few practical things worth knowing. There's a built-in preheat which you can use or turn off. I know many people don't like the idea of preheating. I personally like to do it for meat, chicken or fish because it gives it a nice sear and also locks in the juices. There's also a shake reminder. It's on by default for fries and veggies. You can turn it off if you want, but I'm not sure why it isn't enabled for air fry or roast modes, because you almost always need to shake or flip your food in those settings. Even though there are presets, it doesn't feel restrictive. You can always set the time and temperature manually. You can also switch between Fahrenheit and Celsius by holding the temperature buttons, and it auto pauses when you open the basket, which is something I always appreciate. Overall, the controls are very straightforward. My 12-year-old has no problems using it, which does say a lot. I also really like that this is the kind of air fryer you don't really have to think about. There's no learning curve, no complicated settings, nothing you have to figure out before you can actually use it. You just turn it on, set what you need, and it does its thing. And honestly, I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, especially on busy days when you just want to get dinner done without overthinking it. This isn't an air fryer that's trying to impress you with features or modes you'll never use. It's more about being reliable and easy to live with. If someone who likes experimenting, cooking big batches, or wants all the bells and whistles, this probably isn't the one I'd recommend. But if you just want something you can use day to day that works the same way every time and doesn't make cooking feel like a chore, this one actually makes a lot of sense. And I think that's why this style of air fryer works so well for a lot of people. It's simple, practical, and it just gets the job done. That said, there are a few things worth mentioning. The top-down control panel does tend to collect dust, and sometimes even a small smudge can make the touch controls a little less responsive. The basket has a release button for safety. Some people like that, especially with kids around. but if you have hand or finger issues, it can feel a bit awkward. And the beeps are loud, very similar to Ninja. You definitely will hear them. It's not a deal breaker, just something to know. If I could add one thing, it would be a window. It's not essential, but it's nice for quick checks so that I don't have to keep opening and closing the basket. Cosori doesn't list this model as having a ceramic coating the way they do with some of their other models, like the Turbo Blaze, where they specifically call that out. On this one, that information isn't mentioned in the specs. From using it, it feels like a standard non-stick coating and it performs well, but it's not marketed as ceramic or PFAS free. So it's something worth knowing if you're specifically shopping for a ceramic or PFAS free option. It weighs just under 5 kilos, so it's light enough to move around easily if you like to store it away between uses. That said, it doesn't take up much counter space, and it's the kind of air fryer you'll probably end up leaving out because it gets used so often. The footprint is compact, it doesn't feel bulky, and it fits nicely on the counter without being in the way. And I think that's one of the reasons this size works so well. It strikes a really good balance between capacity and space, and it just feels easy to live with day to day. Now let's talk briefly about power and noise, because I have been getting questions about power consumption in recent reviews, and it seems most are curious about whether it will increase or decrease their energy bills. Over a 10-minute cook, this air fryer used 0.183 kilowatt hours, which works out to about 2 cents of electricity. To make that easier to understand, 10 minutes equals 2 cents. 30 minutes will equal 6 cents. So 1 hour will equal around 11 to 12 cents. That's very normal for an air fryer this size. The unit is rated at 1500 watts, but that's just the maximum. The highest reading I saw was around 1365 watts, and that only happens when the heating element kicks on. On average, it uses about 1100 watts, which is exactly what you'd expect for a 5-quart air fryer. And in real use, the noise stayed around 59 to 62 decibels, with brief peaks around 64, so it's comfortable to be around. The cleanup was easy, the non-stick did its job, nothing stuck, and it didn't feel like a chore to clean afterwards. So is this air fryer enough? If you want reliable cooking, simple controls and low running costs, then yes, it does the job well. If you're looking for ceramic coatings, large batch cooking or premium features, this probably isn't the right one. This isn't an exciting air fryer, but it's practical, it's easy to live with, and it's consistent. And for everyday cooking, that's actually what matters in my opinion. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, I think you'll enjoy the next one, so feel free to subscribe and I'll see you there.